it's the next level.
I was born for battle. Built for it. Sometimes in battle, a perfectly crafted plan gets compromised. A true general comes up with a better one right there on the spot. Working without a net.
Hey panelers, welcome to the show. I'm Steve.
And I'm Daphne.
And this is going to be a spoilerful podcast about the third episode of Snowpiercer Season 3. And Daphne, we have a synopsis here and a title. Why don't you read that for us?
Okay, so the title for this episode is The First Blow. And the synopsis goes like this. It's a game of cat and mouse as both Layton and Wilford vie for the upper hand.
Very good. Very good. So what was your initial reaction?
Okay, so I have multiple feelings. One, I love a satisfying conclusion. And I feel like this episode gave us some satisfaction. I love to see people get a comeuppance when they deserve it. And I feel like we definitely got to see that in this episode. I've realized over the last couple of years that the show has been on that they definitely don't hold back when it comes to violence and using the cold to torture and punish people. As we saw in this episode. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Strong boy. Oh, that one hurts. Yes. He's been with us since the beginning.
Yes.
Wilford and his narcissistic tendencies. That's the thing that bit him in the butt because Javi tried to get him to understand that he needed to slow down. And he disregarded him multiple times. So he really has no one to fault for himself. I guess the only thing that I kind of had an issue with is I felt like the last 10 minutes maybe, a lot happened. And I think I would have rather them spread some of it into next week's episode because I wanted to savor it just a little bit more because we got some reunions and situations were revealed. And now I guess next week's going to be all about how they deal with it. But I guess I would have liked to have had just a little extra time to savor some of this stuff because there were some touching things that happened.
Yeah, they kind of jumped over a couple of things there at the end. I think I've got some of it in my notes as well. That they could have. I like that savor. We wanted to savor the victory a little bit more, but they move right into that vote, and then we get to see a little bit of life coming back to Snowpiercer and people becoming happy again and smiling, but we get that it's very, very brief. So yeah, I wish I'm with you there. I wish we could have got a little bit more of that, but
yeah. So that's what I thought. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great episode. I still stand by Ruth being my favorite character right now, but there are things that I'll bring up in my points that are kind of interesting between her and Pike that I just kind of want to talk about. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great episode, and I'm really looking forward to next week's because I did watch the previews, but none of that's going to influence anything that I say today.
Yeah, I caught the preview this second time, and there was something in there that I want to talk about, but at the same time, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So maybe at the very, very end, we might say something when we talk about the title and stuff of the next episode. Because I did finally get a title. There was a synopsis in IMDb for a long time, but no title. And then this morning there was a title in there. So.
Yeah. They're not putting the titles and any other information in there until very late. Because we were talking about, well, when does the season end? because both of us are doing additional podcasts and we're kind of just planning things out. So I was looking at it, and I don't think there's anything after next week's episode. There are dates and then episode like 3.6 or whatever, but there's no title or synopsis in there for any of the additional episodes.
Yeah, so I don't know if if they're gonna fill that in later or what's gonna happen there. It's gonna be interesting to talk about that. So, well, with that, let's get into our top fives.
You ready for this?
Ben takes us close. I jump over, breach the big Alice engine, and you reconnect.
We only get one shot at it.
Well then, better not miss it.
And as always, Daphne, I let the lady start.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with, I guess, Layton as a leader, because sometimes I'm not sold on him being a leader. I've questioned it a few times, I know, over the course of the last 2 seasons. But one thing I wanted to point out is his ability to learn from others and use it for, like, switching it around or modifying it to fit what he needs. One big thing, of course, is he's been a student of watching Wilford and trying to figure out how to get one up on him. And he used some of Wilford's own tactics against him by distraction. And he not only utilized Josie as the distraction, but Audrey as well, because all of that time that Wilford was looking through the screen and seeing Audrey on the other train, Layton was on his way to Snowpiercer, to Big Alice, to attack.
Yeah. I've got this later in my notes, so we'll talk some more about it when we get there. I don't want to jump too far ahead of what I've got in my notes, but yeah, I liked Layton in this episode. I thought he did a really good job, and there's more stuff in my notes that we'll talk about with Layton. And it's just that big. I've got a big section about the lie. So when we get there,
yeah, because that's another thing. If you think about it, and I won't go into detail because since you have it as one of your points, we can talk about it more there. He had mentioned that he was doing the referendum because that's what Melanie would do. However, Melanie also constructed a rather big lie, and Layton has now constructed a big lie.
Mm-hmm.
Which we'll talk about a little bit more later.
yes, because we saw what happened when Melanie's lie got found out. So what's going to happen when Layton's lie gets found out? So yeah.
I'm not sure.
My first point really is kind of a quick one, but it's that opening monologue by Wilford was so good. Like it's just these opening monologues by everybody are really, really good. And the voiceover as we're seeing the action happen and him talking about how he was built for war and he was made for this. And like you said, those narcissistic kind of tendencies, but he said 1,023 cars. And I thought, didn't Ruth say 1,034 cars?
Remember when they split off? Mm-hmm. I think they're now 1,023, as near as I can count, and now there may be even less, because remember, Snowpiercer had to cut off 4 cars. Mm-hmm. So they're, near as I can tell, they're at about like 1,019.
Yeah, so we'll see next week what we hear as the car count, but I want to kind of move that, I want to start talking more about that at the jump, because that's right at the beginning of every episode. They say how many cars we're talking about, and that again, I just go back to that. He wants to get his engine back. He wants to get Snowpiercer back, and he resorts to these drastic measures where he tells Kevin to take the gloves off, and Kevin just with glee goes after that, and we see that sadistic side not only of Wilford but the even more sadistic side of Kevin. And just that you talked a little bit about Strong Boy, And that was so tough to watch the second time when he's just breaking his fingers off, freezing them, breaking them off, and then talking about his tongue. And it just, it was horrifying. And we got a few deaths in this episode.
We did.
That we see that the stakes are real. And I think I kind of like that that we never know from one week to the next. I mean, obviously we can always be pretty sure that Layton, Wilford, these main characters are probably going to survive.
Yeah.
Although I did have a note that even Layton has started talking about Melanie in the past tense.
Yes.
And I didn't like that.
I know. I know. We're all still holding out hope that maybe she could be alive. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe,
starting to lose hope myself.
I am too. I'm starting to think that maybe we'll get her in visions or something. But we'll talk about that later, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So my next point is reunited, because we saw some of our favorite characters get to be reacquainted with each other, or at least the drawers were opened. And I have to admit that at the beginning of the episode, I saw Mike O'Malley's name in the cast list.
Oh,
and I was so excited because all I could think is, oh my gosh, Roche, finally. I know it's only been a couple of episodes, but it's just been forever. And I think he's such a great voice of reason, and I'm glad that he's getting out of the drawers. However, happy that we saw Till, we also are going to have to mourn the loss of his wife because she passed away, which is always a gamble that you take with those drawers. And some people just don't survive. And I mean, they opened the drawer for Roche. They opened the drawer for his daughter, Carly, and she was okay. But when they opened the door for his wife, I believe her name was Anne, she had died.
Yeah. And that was heartbreaking. And it's right after we have this conversation between Till and Audrey, kind of about Roche, and this was in my notes, so I'm glad you brought it up, because that conversation is really good, where she starts out by telling Audrey, when you sing, I sometimes think you're actually a decent person, and then she gets her jab in, though, that I realize, all you sing is covers, so it's not your own words, it's not your own ideas.
Yes.
And then Audrey tries to kind of jab back at her about, well, you and Roche didn't have a good relationship, but we saw towards the end of last season that they started to grow a respect for each other, and they were partners.
Well, and Audrey says at the end of the day, there's only one person, there's only the person you sing for. And she's trying to draw out of Till who who do you sing for?
She sings for, yeah.
And she just talks about the important people in her life, like Layton and everyone, and she mentions Roche because she did start growing closer to Roche, especially last season. So I think that this situation is very difficult for her because Roche made the decision for them to go in the drawers, I believe. I think it was his decision. Because he couldn't be loyal. He couldn't be loyal to Wilford.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and rewatch that last episode again, because I did watch those last two episodes, and I'm trying to remember if it was kind of a choice kind of thing of, well, if you can't be loyal, then you're going to go, I'm either going to kill you or you're going to go into the drawers. I don't remember exactly how it was, but I think you're right. It was kind of his choice, but at the same time, it was definitely Wilford saying, well, this is basically your only choice.
Yeah,
it's death or the drawers.
Right. And he chose the drawers. And by doing that, his wife now is no longer. So that's going to be something that I think is going to have huge ramifications. I mean, I think Roche is going to be angry with himself, but I think he's also going to be incredibly angry with Wilford, who is still with us.
Yeah, his daughter might be mad. Who knows? It's gonna be good to see that reaction next week and see how it all goes about.
Yeah, I have one more reunion, though, that I definitely want to talk about, and it's not Layton and Zara, even though that was lovely. It's Ben and Javi.
Yes.
Because
I didn't have any of this in my notes, so I'm glad you... Go ahead.
no one's been able to get through to Javi this whole time. None of them have been able to really get through to him. However, at one point, Ben says to Javi, "Ubre una cerveza, amigo," which means open a beer, my friend. I went and looked it up because I wanted to know exactly what he was saying.
I'm glad you did, because I didn't, so...
And that's when he opens the door that Layton is able to get into. And he doesn't really hesitate with that when Ben says that. And then later we get Ben on the train, on Big Alice, coming up to see Javi, or what remains of Javi, because Javi is so traumatized. And he hugs him, and Javi is still very traumatized. I'm not sure if he realizes that it's real, even, because he's been 6 months in this continued tortured existence. And now it's going to take some time for him to let his guard down. And I don't know that he will ever be normal, but I think with a lot of effort on behalf of his friends, he might get back to somewhat of what we used to see. I just remember the Javi we used to know and the Javi we have now is they're just two different people.
Very different.
Two different
He's
people,
very
yeah.
broken. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh. My next one is more crazy from LJ.
Oh.
We started to be sympathetic towards her, and then we saw more crazy, but then, I loved, she has this great reaction when Kevin breaks into their bedroom, and she's like, "Kevin!" She just keeps saying his name in this, like, petulant kind of way.
Yeah.
But there was,
I liked that. It was funny.
There was a kind of a strange look on her face when she told Oz to go put on some coffee, and I didn't know if maybe she was already planning to do something to Kevin, and she was watching way too close when he was torturing.
Oh, of course. I feel like that would be her role in any post-apocalypse. She would be the one that would be, cutting fingers off, ripping tongues out, doing all of these things. Honestly, I wrote one note about LJ. I have a few others, but my main note about LJ was thank you. Because she took out Kevin, and this season, the first couple of episodes, I realized that he didn't have any redeeming qualities left. He needed to go. And so she took care of that. Yeah. And I'm grateful.
I had this was one other thing I wanted to say, though, about this is when she tells Oz, we're just providing them a venue, there was a glee.
Yes.
In her voice. So I'm torn. I agree with you. I'm glad she killed Kevin, but at the same time, she's a murderer.
She is very
a multiple
creepy.
Murderer.
And she flip-flops to whichever side is going to keep her alive, or I think the side that's going to provide her the most entertainment.
And that cover of Eve of Destruction, I don't know. I didn't recognize the name of who was singing it. But that was a really good cover of Eve of Destruction.
So, yeah, Barry Maguire sings that cover of Eve of Destruction. I think it's perfect for that. Most of the songs that they have been picking have just been fantastic. The music, like in so many movies that I really enjoy, the music is its own character.
So, yeah, that's all I really had about LJ. Just, she's still crazy.
Yes. Yes, she is. I don't know. Sometimes I like her and sometimes I don't. Maybe I think the actress is just playing her. I mean, she's a very complicated character at times because she's able to shift the way that she appears to people. I mean, remember back during her trial, she was coming across as this meek little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And
the innocent
now,
little kid.
Yeah, and now she's maniacal and vengeful and crazy at times. You just really don't know what you're going to get with her. And I think if Layton keeps her around, he's just really going to have to... I mean, you'd have to walk on eggshells with her. Because you just don't know. All right, well, my next one, I alluded to this a little bit ago. Pike's transformation, because I feel like the Pike that we got early on in the series, Pike we have now, Ruth has pretty much, I think, she's pushed him to be a leader, but she's also kind of facilitated and encouraged this change in him to be a bit more, like, constructively assertive. Not that he wasn't assertive before, but she's helping him channel his energy into something for the greater good for everyone.
Yeah,
And,
I had this as my next one as well, so I'll have something to speak when you're done. I've got some more to add to it.
Well, at one point, before he goes to see Ruth, he's wanting to go ahead and, ambush the folks with the tanks, and Strong Boy and the other Taily are just having to say to him, hey, you're the leader now. You can't be doing this. You need to go. So he decides to go see Ruth. That's hard for him because he's a very much someone who wants to be in the middle of everything that's going on. He doesn't want to be put on the sidelines. He doesn't want to be protected. He will risk it for the greater good. Mostly for himself, but now for others too. And
what I loved about that scene was it's not just Ruth seeing the leadership in him. It's not just him taking the leadership role, but it's other people seeing him as the leader. Because that's what the guy says. You're in charge now. You can't be the one who does the distraction.
Exactly.
I think was just outstanding. And then this is another, I will say, criticism of the episode that I had. I wish they had showed us how he organized that fireworks display.
Yeah.
Because we see him get the fireworks.
Yes.
And then he looks it around, and then the next thing we know, all these fireworks are going off at the same time all over the train.
Yeah. I wish they'd taken a little more time with things like that. I know that we're very much a society of want to know it now, want to get to the end point now. But I think in storytelling, sometimes slowing down is the right idea. Now, I don't mean you have to go so slow that you're creeping, but part of me wishes this episode had been spread out over 2 episodes. And that maybe this one ended with the 2 trains face to face. And then next episode, we'd get the whole of everything else. Because I feel like there are more things they could have showed us. And then we could have, like I said, savored the comeuppance of Kevin, Wilford getting the shit kicked out of him, which was amazing. Oh, Wilford. You will be your own demise. That was wonderful. I wish that we'd had more time.
Yeah, and I love that Till was the one who saw the fireworks, and she's like, guys, look to the south, and that scene, that image of the train going and all those fireworks going up, and then Wilford just being deflated because he realized that they're going to find us now.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just great.
He did not anticipate Layton. He anticipated Layton doing what he would do. And not what Layton would do. Like, he was thinking of Layton as another version of him, and that's not what he should have done. He should have thought about, okay, Layton knows that I'll probably do this, so what would he do instead? But he didn't look at it that way. He was too busy looking at it because he thinks so much of himself. He was too busy looking at it from his point of view. And that, it caused his downfall, and I'm not disappointed.
Nope. And we'll see, though. We'll see what happens going forward. It's going to be exciting. So that was mine as well. So what's your next one?
So my next one is Those We Lost. The ones that are both satisfying and the ones that are sad. As I said already, I'm super excited that LJ took out Kevin. I'm so glad to see him go. He's one of those characters that we saw his transition from being meek and mild to being tortured to then coming into play and now becoming I mean, basically another Wilford, just sadistic. And watching him torture Strong Boy, it was just like, okay, there's nothing left in you. You need to go. And I love that LJ just so nonchalantly is just talking to Oz so carefully and then goes ahead and stabs him in the neck. It was great. Loved it. But at the time,
I gasped.
Yeah.
I gasped the first time because I was just so shocked and surprised the first time it happened when I saw it.
And at the time, we didn't know that Strong Boy had died. Because at the time, I had just assumed that he had ripped his tongue out or cut his tongue out because that's what he was doing. And I don't know that Kevin necessarily meant to kill him or if that was just further torture and he just, takes him out.
I'm kind of glad we didn't see that.
Yeah.
His death, we saw the aftermath of it, but there definitely was something with his tongue. So maybe the freezing of his face to get at the tongue, I don't know.
Yeah, it was very sad. I mean, we get to see it at the end. And first, you see Pike standing and just looking down, and I'm thinking, oh no.
Well, and Winnie was there as well.
And Winnie was there as well. And so you knew that something bad had happened. And then they showed us his face frozen. So you knew he was gone. So that was just upsetting. Of course, we get Roche and his family back and find out that his wife Anna has died. So we lost a few in this episode. We lost some that we cared about and one that I don't let the door hit you on the way out. Kevin, enough of your foolishness. Yeah, I mean, let's talk a minute about Strong Boy and what he's meant to the series. I mean, we meet him in the first episode. He goes to the drawers with Pike. We've seen him throughout this be such a strength and a force to be reckoned with when it comes to our Snowpiercer tailies and then even Snowpiercer itself. We've lost others along the way, and he's been that force the entire
he was that
time.
Rock. He took out, how many jackboots did he take out before in the revolution, in the revolt? And it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things just to remind us that some of these shows like The Walking Dead, like this one, where stakes are high, where people the characters we love might not last.
Yeah.
And anytime somebody can be taken from us.
Yeah. And they do. They'll take them. They'll take them very quickly. You just never know. I mean, we don't, like we talked about earlier, we don't know Melanie's fate right now. And thinking about it, it's like, oh man, It's only a matter of time, though, before they take someone really big. And I feel like by taking Strong Boy, they're getting close to the heart of the show because he was one of the characters that was part of Layton's core heart. And I feel like this is a huge loss. I will be interested to see how, now that he died, what impact that will have on the Taily group.
Oh, well, let's move on. My next one is Asha and the Lie. And we get to see more, or we get to at least, I think I talked about this last week, that she's got to have some PTSD from that 4 years being alone. And we see that in this episode where when she goes into that one room, she tells Layton to turn the lights out, and then she's got her helmet on and she's hyperventilating. And she says something to Layton that tells me that there's more to her story. Because she says to him, he says something about, I have a child on Snowpiercer, and that's why I'm doing this. And she says, if you're doing this for a child, you're going to do things that you're going to regret.
Yes.
And I want to know that story. And then at the end, when he convinces her, she still thinks Wilford is the great engineer, and he's got to convince her and tell her, no, he's not. He's a narcissist who built this train so that he could be king. And he wasn't, and we've saved ourselves, and so that convinces her to tell this lie that she was found by them in New Eden.
Yes.
And brought back as a way to, when they actually haven't even been there yet. So
No.
that's why, like we talked about the lie that Melanie told when her lie got told out. And I love that scene right at the very end where they're talking about where he says, we don't have to tell any more lies. And Ruth is like, no, this train is built on lies.
Yeah.
Like there was the lie of Wilford, the great engineer. There was the lie of the godlike engineer in the car. There was Melanie's lie. There was all these, everybody's had something that they've lied about. And when it comes out, it's devastating. Now they're able to get past it. So this one, I kind of hope, I don't know. I'm torn. Like I keep saying I'm torn in this episode because there's things that they've alluded to that when we get to the end of the season, we're going to see how it comes up. Because like if they get to New Eden and it's frozen, that's going to be trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, part of me says, let's find out the lie. But part of me is like, I really want New Eden to exist and be a place where they can get off the train. I don't know if they have a plan for a finale season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've not read anything or researched anything about if they have if they had a 5 season or a 4 season or whatever, however many seasons they kind of had an idea. I hope they do, because I would love for them to have a satisfying ending.
Yeah, me too. I don't want it to go on so long that it just becomes regurgitating of the same things over and over again. Layton's in trouble, Layton's the leader. Layton's in trouble, Layton's the leader. Wilford comes back, Yeah, I really don't want that to be the situation. One thing about Asha, though, I started to wonder where she's talking about children. I'm wondering if one of two things happened. Did something happen with the children at the place that she was at? Or two, is someone that is her nephew really her son? Like, she talked about that, and that just makes me wonder, was that your nephew or was it your son? And I still think that the blood splattering that we saw there was way too fresh to have been like even 4 years ago. So I'm really not sure. I don't know how much we can trust her. Like, Layton's putting a lot of trust in someone that he really hasn't been around. But again, he likes to see the best in people, which is why sometimes I think he's not really cut out to be the leader on the train, because he can't differentiate. He's not as perceptive as, say, Ruth or some of the others in determining who could be a threat and who isn't. So I'm just not sure. I think sometimes he should let day-to-day operations be handled by some other folks. I mean, look, Ruth and Pike did a really good job managing everything. So
I'm with you on that, because we don't know, and I went to the same place, was that maybe the nephew was actually she talking about her son, not her nephew, and I didn't think about the blood splatter being more recent than 4 years, because that would, but also she's latched on to Layton. He saved her. And remember in the last episode, we talked about the fact that she said, you did something insane to save me. And he said, I'm glad I did. And so she has latched on to him as her salvation.
Yeah.
And so she's willing to tell this lie, and she's probably going to be willing to maintain it. But I really, there's something more. I'm with you. There's something more
with her. I think too, she's not the type, I don't think she's going to be the type to run down the train singing, "You Are My Sunshine." Like, I feel like she's more of a loner, and that might help keep the lie going, because otherwise there might be questions. And if someone sees her and she has to start answering questions, that's where things could get just a bit sticky. So I'm not sure what could happen there. But I guess we'll see soon enough.
Yep, it's coming up. So I think we're to your number one.
All right, so my last point is one big train again. And part of that ties into the lie and how they're going to go forward with it. Another part is they've left Wilford alive. Layton has left him alive. I don't know why, other than I know he is a good person and wants to do the right thing, and killing Wilford would just make him a martyr, and his people would just rise up, and there's no sense in that. But he's got to be very careful, because as we saw Wilford talking to Josie, he's incredibly charming. And he knows how to get what he wants, and I just feel like if the wrong person is guarding him, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and this was interesting to me. We see Till take Audrey back, and she says, "You're confined to third class, and you can't, and you're banned from the night car." And then Wilford is in the cell, one of the cells somewhere. I don't think he's in the library cell, because
No.
Asha was in the library, it seemed.
Yeah.
So
he's in the cell that I think he was holding Ruth in.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But so they didn't get their first class cabin that they
no,
that
well,
Layton promised,
because he didn't accept the deal.
You're right.
Layton had to take the train by force. So
yeah, Layton did. Okay, because that's what I did. Now I understand. Layton did say, "I don't want to have to be violent. I don't want there to be any violence," and he ended up having to be violent with Wilford. So okay,
he did. He forced Wilford to give an address to stand down the troops so that there could be a peaceful transfer of power. But it's not because Wilford accepted what Layton had offered. Because if he had, then they might have given him the first class lodging. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but you've talked about Wilford's narcissism, and he never would have taken that deal. He was going to have to be by force.
Yeah.
So and it was basically Layton making him say uncle.
Yes.
The kid, from
well,
Salem's
and he
Lot,
said, he said, I am the train. So he sees himself as something so much bigger than the conductor or the engineer. Like, he sees himself as the king. As Layton said, earlier in the episode, he wanted a place to rule. He wanted a place to be in charge and create this world. And he did that. But along the way, he hurt a lot of people. And he continued to hurt people when he was in charge.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense. Now, and what it looked like to me, before I get to my last one, it looks like now the Big Alice engine is at the front, and the Snowpiercer engine is in the middle?
No.
Or did they back into the train?
I think Snowpiercer is in front of Big Alice. I think they got turned around so they could back into Big Alice.
Okay, and so Snowpiercer's back to being the front of the train.
I don't.
We're gonna have to see it traveling. We're gonna have to see when they get it traveling, because that's another thing that was a little bit.
It's hard to see in the dark. It's hard to see in the dark, and that's kind of what it was like. Is you really couldn't see how it was put together, and I know that Ben was working with Alex to get it what looked like turned around.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have to see next week if we get a direction or something of which way they're going. But I did love all the track switching and stuff. The only thing that kind of, for a second, in the second viewing, I was like, these trains are not supposed to stop. Like they've made a big deal in the first episode about stopping the Snowpiercer train because it was going to burn out. It was going to burn up, and Big Alice, if you stop Big Alice, they're going to freeze.
Yeah. So
it'll be interesting to see what next week, how they're going to handle the train and what's going on with it. So my last one is a little bit about what you're just talking about, the being one train again. But the thing that got me there at the end is Wilford, he convinces Ben to reconnect the trains because he stopped Big Alice and everybody's going to freeze to death. Mm-hmm. And this is where Wilford was so distracted by Miss Audrey, he didn't realize that Layton wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, no.
Because remember...
Yeah, he's totally entranced by Audrey.
Mm-hmm.
Totally entranced.
It kind of surprised me that he didn't figure it out, that Layton was doing something different, But the key to the whole plan, and we talked a little bit about it, I think Javi is broken. Definitely. He's traumatized and he's broken. But
Yes.
I think he's coming back because, like you said, when Ben told him that phrase, he did not hesitate to open that. He just kind of slipped his hand over and opened that door, and Layton got in. And I just love that Javi was the key. Because if he hadn't done that, the whole plan goes out the window.
Exactly.
Josie's not, Josie starts to break the glass at the front, and so Wilford's got to slam the door to save that, and that's where he backs right up into Layton, and he realizes what happened, and he goes, "Oh," I think he says something like "clever" or something like that, because he realizes that Layton is behind him, and that he's just been beaten, or that he's about to be beaten to a pulp and get his hand crucified. And,
that was so good, so satisfying. I cheered when I saw that.
Yeah, it made me grimace, but I'm right there with you. It was such a satisfying fight that, even though, I mean, Wilford's a big guy, so Sean Bean is kind of a big guy, so it should have been maybe a more, it could have lasted a little bit longer, but I guess when you get a spike through your hand, that
does take a little bit of the wind out of your sails, I think, when you're dealing with something for an injury. Yeah. Like I said, I think there were things that could have gone on just a little bit longer. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I guess we'll see in the remaining 7 episodes exactly the story that they're going to tell. Yeah, I mean, the cinematography in this show is always fantastic. I love what they do. The way that they weave all of it together in the scenery. But I'm interested in seeing where this goes. I'm just not sure.
Which is a good thing. That's exactly what we want from a show. We don't want the show to be predictable. Most shows, we don't want to be predictable. We want to be surprised. Yeah, I'm totally entranced by the, like you said, the cinematography. The only other note that I have that we haven't already talked about was, you've already talked about I talked about the cinematography, the cinematography and that of the fireworks going off, but that scene, the special effects that they did when that harpoon hit the back of that train was so good to me. It just seemed brilliant, and see the flames, and the action of we're going to derail was just amazing to me.
It added a lot of tension. When I saw that harpoon, it took me straight back to Game of Thrones and the giant arrows that came across to kill the dragons, the wooden pieces,
Yeah. And I couldn't tell, was it Ben that fired? Not Ben. Was it Javi that fired the harpoon, or was it the guy that was there? I couldn't tell, because Wilford kind of grabs Javi's shoulders and is like, "Good job," or something like that. And maybe just keeping the train going while the harpoon shot or something was what he was.
I think, I'm not sure. See, I don't know the answer to that question.
May have to rewatch the.
Might have to rewatch it again. I feel like so much is happening now. It's going to take 3 or 4 watches to get every single thing that happens.
I may have to rewatch it next week before the next one.
I know. I might. It's hard. It's hard. This is a complicated show sometimes, and you can miss things so quickly. If we miss something, guys, be sure to send us a note and let us know what we missed, because we want you to be part of this conversation with us.
Please, absolutely. So any other notes for you?
Well, let me see. The one thing that I do have is actually a quote, so I think I can do it in the quote section.
Well, let's go ahead and start. I've only got a few quotes, so we'll see if we duplicated each other or not, but we'll just go one by one. You can start.
Well, when Audrey finds out that she's been relegated to 3rd class and banned from the night train, which is her baby. She is told by Sykes that she picked the wrong side, and then Audrey says, has there ever been a right side on this goddamn train? And she's right, because it seems like there's always 2 people fighting for something. Whether it's Tailies fighting over food or something going on in 1st class, there's always someone fighting over something, and you're always having to pick a side.
I almost had that one, but I didn't. So,
Mm-hmm.
One of the ones I've got is one from Pike that I just absolutely loved. And I didn't get the whole quote, but I got the beginning of it. And when he's threatening Wiggins and he says, there's something you should know about Tailies. We have long memories and we win wars.
Yes, I had that on my list as well. In fact, all of my quotes we have already done.
Okay.
Which was Josie tending to Wilford's injuries. I am the train. We talked about Asha's quote about doing things for children and regretting it. And Audrey and Till's conversation about singing covers. And that's really all that I had.
The only other 2 I had were real quick, and that's when Till is talking to Miss Audrey, and she says, you'll know it's him when his head is on a pike.
Yes.
And then the other one that I absolutely loved both times when I heard it, because I'm retired military, was when Layton finds Ruth, and he says, I never would have found you. You're in civvies. I thought that was great. That's what we always used to say. You're in civvies. Get your civvies on. Well, so
they've come a long way since the beginning of this show, since we started watching it way back in season 1, when I thought Ruth would never be open to anything like a revolt or being part of any sort of war. And now
we never would have thought.
Yeah. She's an incredible leader. Like, she really is. She probably rightfully should be leading Snowpiercer, because I think she has the good... She, out of everyone on Snowpiercer, has the good of the train in her heart. And so I think maybe she should be the one that's leading.
Yeah, and she's the one who said, I know everyone on this train.
Mm-hmm.
When they were wanting to do the census. So... we did get one piece of feedback, and I think it's a great lead-in to talk about the preview for next week. Do you want to read that from Christy?
Absolutely. So Christy says, wow, what a fantastic action-packed episode. Loved it and watched it twice already. So looking forward to next week. Anybody see the previews to next week? Yes. I can't help myself. I just can't help myself when it comes to the previews.
So what do you want to talk about first? Briefly talk about with the preview.
Well,
do you want to talk about the last image of the preview, or?
Oh, I think we need to save that for last.
Okay.
I think that we can talk about the fact that in the preview, Pike is talking to Ruth and saying basically, you should be leading this train, which I kind of agree, just because, like I said, the most important factor to me is Ruth is so focused on what's good for the train. That is why I think that she should be in charge.
And it looks like from the preview we're going to get either they're going to encounter those first class cars that got separated in season 2. Was it? Yeah, season 2. Or maybe those. I can't imagine it'd be just the 4 cars that Layton and them lost. So it's got to be the ones that had a bunch of first class passengers on it. So it's going to be interesting to see how many deaths we might, or if they get a death toll, or how they're going to move those cars out of the way, if they need to move them out of the way.
I'm not sure.
So but that final image, and it's alluded to in the synopsis that I read for it, is I think we're going to get either a vision or something from Melanie next week.
Well, either way, it's a gift.
Yeah.
Because Jennifer Connelly, I've missed having her on this show, because she just brought this maturity and calmness to the role of Melanie, always keeping everything under control. Like Ruth, I think she did have the train, the best, she wanted what was best for the train, although she was disconnected from the plight of the people on it more than Ruth was. So
yes, absolutely.
I don't know, because in the preview, Melanie is saying, tell him?
Yeah, and she's saying, and she's in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish we could have it right now.
I know. It's not one of those things, Steve. We can't just snap our fingers. We have to be patient, and I don't have a lot of patience. Anyone who knows me knows I have no patience whatsoever. None.
But I am hoping we either get confirmation of her alive, dead, or it's just a vision. Those are basically those are our three choices.
We don't really know. And there's a lot, that needs to happen, or we need to see over the next few episodes, because now that everyone's back together and they're getting reintroduced, there's going to be that aftermath of the last 6 months and what it's done to the people on Snowpiercer, because it's been hard having Wilford the Terrible, Wilford the Terrible in charge.
Yeah, and what are we going to get back to? So.
Yeah. And then there's New Eden and that whole trip. I feel like there's a lot. We have a lot to look forward to, and a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah, I loved that when, what was it? Was it Ruth? Ruth was the one who said that getting to New Eden is getting to the Horn of Africa is going to be tough because there was the tracks are bad, and so I'm assuming it must be an area that they avoided. As I loved, that was another thing. I think I started to talk about it earlier this evening. I loved all the track switching that we got to see and how they do that and how that occurs, and realizing just how many tracks there are over the entire world.
Yeah.
That he really had to have some good engineers, or he himself, whoever it was that planned out those tracks, because they knew they were going to be on that train for possibly, the rest of existence.
Well, and they also talked about the tracks were very rough, and there had been a war there when the climate first failed. So it's going to be a dangerous area. We don't know how bad it's going to be. But I've looked at some of the things we've been through with this train so far, and I'm just like, how much worse can it really be? They've had all of these things to deal with. And I'm just,
Layton says it. He says it, the train's being held together by, duct tape and baling wire.
Yeah.
We've got to get off this train. And it's one of those things that, they've only been on it for 8 years. I can't imagine what the next 70 what it would look like after the next 70. So.
Well, and they don't have Melanie taking care of it. And she knew how to take care of it perfectly. Everyone else, they're just making it work. They're doing what they have to do to keep it running. They're not as well trained.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it if you think about it, because we talked about Ruth being a leader and caring not about the train. Ruth cared about the passengers.
Mm-hmm.
And Melanie cared about the train. So they had a great balance there of making sure things kept going. And it was you're right, it was Melanie's lack of empathy toward the plight of the tailies that caused the revolt to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Ruth not knowing as much about the train. It's not concerning about the train, the engineering of the train.
Right. So there are two halves to a whole, but we really don't have the other half. What we have are Alex, Javi, and Ben that are going to have to add together to become Melanie to be able to manage the things that happen. And remember, we have no breachmen. They're all gone.
Breachmen, so we don't have the people that knew how to repair things.
Yeah.
And it's getting tough.
Yeah. The world is an ever-changing entity on Snowpiercer, and being able to take care of it and ensure its long-term potential to run is going to be a big problem. It's a question mark at this point. They've been able to do some great things, but not enough. I mean, in the long run, Melanie kept that train going smoothly for, the first 7 years. Now we're going to be faced with the unknown.
Very, very good. Wonderful discussion. Have no other feedback. I didn't see anywhere else, so we'll move on. I have to talk about something, and you may not have watched it, but I binged through the new Amazon Prime show Reacher over the last couple of days. I got snowed in and spent some of that time watching Reacher with Alan. I think his name is Richson, as the guy who played Reacher in this TV show, and it was really, really good. And I want to recommend Michael Rosenbaum's podcast Inside of You, because he interviewed Alan Richson this week, and it's queued up in my podcast player to hear, because I want to hear what this guy has to say. But Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum, if you know who Michael Rosenbaum is, he was on Smallville and a few other shows. He played Lex Luthor on the TV show Smallville. I know you've been super busy.
I have. I am burning the candle at both ends. I'm not been listening to any podcasts really outside of my regular podcast circle. So, okay, so the podcast that I'm going to share is one called Let's Get Down to Business. It's actually a figure skating podcast, as Steve just suggested. It's a couple of cousins, and one of them, Jocelyn, is a friend of a friend. I actually have met her at a competition, and yeah, they break down competitions. They have lots of opinions. It's a lot of fun to listen to them. So yeah, it's called Let's Get Down to Business.
All right. You are listening to us on your podcast player of choice. If you are able to give us a review, we would love a 5-star review on that podcast player of choice. We will read it out here if we get contacted with it, and just love to hear from our listeners on any of those platforms.
You can check out our website at panelstopixelspodcast.com.
We are on Facebook, facebook.com/panelstopixels.
We are on Twitter at panelstopixels, and that's panels and pixels spelled out with the number 2 in the middle.
We have an email address, which is panelstopixels1@gmail.com. Panels2pixels1, that's the TO spelled out right there in the middle with the number 1@gmail.com.
You can also find us on YouTube if you search Panels to Pixels Podcast, and please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our feed.
We are on Instagram at Panels2Pixels Podcast, all spelled out with letters, at Panels2Pixels Podcast on Instagram.
And you should check out all the other podcasts on the Next Level Online Podcast Network. We highly recommend them. Wilhelm, The Melting Pat, Podcast Zero, and so much more. Go to nextlevelradioonline.com and check all of them out there.
Next week, we will continue on with the fourth episode of Snowpiercer, which is entitled Bound by One Track.
Woohoo! One track. One train. Are we going to have another train? No. I think what that means is the fact that they're all back together now, and there's going to be some debris in the way that they're going to have to deal with.
Well, Daphne, what have you got coming up on Run for Your Lives?
Well, last week we had a little break. Vacation and just being super busy. We did not have an episode in the can for that week. So we decided to take the week off. This week we are coming back with an episode on a 2019 movie called Little Monsters. And
I did watch it.
It's quite a little movie. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. And we have a lot to say about it. So I'm looking forward to getting that one out at the end of the week.
I look forward to hearing it. I did send in a live Steve for it, so we'll see.
I saw that. I can't wait to listen to it. I never listen until Paige and I can listen together.
I think I stayed coherent on this one. Maybe. I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
We'll find out. And as for me, you'll hear me right here on Panels to Pixels. Laura and I will be covering the next episode of The Witcher this Friday. So you can send us your feedback for that. I'm going to try to get out posts. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like what Strange Indeed does with the Netflix shows, where I'm going to have I'll have a feedback post on Facebook for each episode that's coming up. That way they're just out there. And if you want to put feedback in there, we'll read them at the time that we cover that episode if you've already watched the entire series.
That sounds great.
With that, we have come to the end. Daphne, I appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Steve. It's been a lot of fun so far. I can't wait to see where that lovely Snowpiercer train is going to take us next.
Absolutely. So this was Panels to Pixels, and we will see you on the next panel. Good night.
Good night.